Do you struggle with managing your time, work, family, just life in general? I've done in the past and I still do at times, but having the right tools and habits can make your life a hell of a lot easier. I've collected some of the most productive tools and theories that highly productive people use, and I still do use many of these myself. Stay tuned. What's going on, guys? Richard Rozza with the Personal Development Channel. This is part one of Time Tools. If you haven't already, then please hit that subscribe button, and if at any point you like what you see, give it a little like. Let's get to it. In this two-part edition, I'll be covering some of the best tools available to manage your time, be more productive, and to avoid, hopefully, procrastination. I've collected the most productive tools and theories that highly productive people use, and as I said, I still use many of these myself. You'll have to wait until part two, where I share my ultimate bonus tip. I would class myself as a high-performing individual. I'm not trying to boast, certainly not who I am. Have I got a long way to go? Yes. Will I ever stop learning or think that I need to stop learning? Absolutely not. I won't go into the granular detail, but I purposely load myself with too much work. Some might disagree with this, as it can burn you out, and it has happened to me a lot of times, and it still does every now and again. But I also believe in a balanced lifestyle, but I like to be productive. But I've made the choice recently to really kind of stop consuming TV, social media. I consume it, but not very much, certainly not TV and TV series. If I start watching a TV series, I don't know about you, but if I start watching one, I end up staying awake till stupid o'clock in the morning, and then I get nothing done the day after, and it kind of just takes over. The reason I'm sharing this with you is to show we don't all need to wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning to be successful or productive. Although I do wake up early, we don't all need to wake up early. There's a great little post written by a gentleman called Mike Jones titled, "Am I a failure because I don't get up at 4 a.m?" The link's in the description. Please read it. It's a great little post that sums up this perfectly. But to make sure when I am being productive, I make the most out of it. And I make sure that I'm using the right tools and the methodologies that are going to help me be more productive. And that's what I'm going to be sharing with you guys today. I don't always use them all at once. Some I don't use at all. But I know very productive people that do use some of these, and some of them are really famous processes and concepts. My recommendation, as always, though, is to find what works for you. Even if one of these tools can help you, then it's going to have a huge benefit on how productive you're going to be and what it can give back to you. So I hope you enjoy some of these points I've got. Some of the points are going to be going through on part two, but I've got about 18 amazing tools that I hope you find useful. So number one, focus on the most important tasks first. The theory behind most important tasks is that any given to-do list has some tasks that are more important than others. If you focus on simply checking off your to-do list items, you'll end up with a mix of important and less important tasks completed. It also exposes you to the potential for procrastination, which it's easy to spend the whole day checking off easy, less important to-dos instead of buckling down on the hard stuff. Instead, spend a few minutes at the beginning of your day to choose 1 to 3 most important tasks first. No matter what, you need to make sure these are finished by the end of the day. With this renewed focus, it's going to help you to make sure you've got a more meaningful to-do list and get the things done that you really wanted to get done. Number 2, cultivate deep work. Some tasks are just hard. There's no substitute for deep work. Everybody has a few daily to-dos that could be almost knocked out while sleeping. These are the tasks that you need a good podcast to get through. If anything, they're hard to get yourself to do because they're not especially interesting. You know what I mean? At the same time, some tasks are just difficult. You can't multitask your way to finishing them. You need to devote serious time and mental effort to knocking them out of the park. So these tasks are called deep work. Newport wrote about this type of work in his best-selling book, Deep Work, Rules for Focused Success in a Distracted World. Newport argues that the skill of intense focus is increasingly rare and that those who can master it are at an enormous advantage. A few of Newport's recommendations to cultivate deep work are: schedule deep work. Plan deep work into your schedule at a similar time every day, probably in the morning. Having a regular time to deep work helps you make it a habit. The other one is get bored. It sounds counterintuitive to call being bored a productive habit, but being comfortable with boredom is important. Deep work isn't always enjoyable, and boredom or frustration are what cause us to seek out distractions. Avoid using social media for entertainment as much as you possibly can, and get more comfortable doing nothing. Be harder to contact. Email and other distractions can be reduced by asking people who contact you to do more work up front. Ask people to research their questions first before coming to you, and provide as much information as possible in their emails. Same goes for you spending time on communication instead of dashing off a quick email back and forth, when you know you could probably get it done a lot quicker. The next one is know your work habits. Do you work best in isolation with periodic points? Are you working around a hectic schedule? You don't need to overhaul your entire schedule. Just set aside some time for deep work. Okay, tool number 3. Keep a distraction list to stay focused. All right? Keep a distraction list to jot down ideas you think of while you're working with emails, social media, and 1,000 little to-dos. It's easy to get distracted when you're trying to be productive. Whether you're trying to focus on deep work or just dealing with smaller tasks, distractions are the bane of productivity. It's hard to maintain efficient work habits with distractions around you all the time. And one powerful method of reducing distractions is creating a distraction list. Sounds a little bit strange, I know, but it works and I always use it. Keep this list, whether it's a Google Doc or a physical piece of paper, doesn't really matter, whatever works for you. Whenever a distracting thought pops up, write it down on the list and get back to work. This technique, which is one of the secrets to Pomodoro technique, is powerful because a lot of the time your distractions legitimately require attention. So if I'm not doing work and I suddenly remember a bill that needs to be paid, or I have an idea for a new episode, those are the sort of thoughts that deserve attention. They don't just deserve it right now. So as thoughts arise during your work, jot them down. Once you reach a break in your work, you can then come back to them, and you can either tackle them at another time. Yes, your to-do list is going to get larger, but at least you're focusing on what you need to focus on without having those distractions. I've used this multiple times. I use it every day. I personally use the sticky notes on your computer, on the desktop, and I've forgotten what I just call sticky notes. So that's what I use. I have them open. They save. So whenever I shut my system down, when I open it back up, they're saved there. So any notes that pop up into my head while I'm doing any work that shouldn't really have my attention for that stuff at that time, I then just make a quick note of it and it's saved. There's also lots of other, you can obviously use a diary. Really, it's up to you, whatever you find useful. There's lots of other software out in the market available these days. Lots of it's free. One that I personally quite like is ClickUp. ClickUp is actually a project management piece of software. I've used it previously and I've started to use it again recently. But it's very handy and it's something that you can use. It syncs with your phone, syncs with your computer, it syncs everywhere. So there's lots of stuff available. All right, number 4 is the Eisenhower matrix. This is great for identifying long-term priorities. You can use this to find important but not urgent tasks. One of the dangers of productivity is a focus on the short term. So as management legend Peter Drucker once said, there is nothing so useless as doing efficiently that which should not be done at all. When you study productivity habits, it's easy to fall into that trap. On any given workday, it's easy to get caught up in things that seem important, right? Yeah? You know what I mean. The Eisenhower matrix, used by Dwight Eisenhower to make decisions during his time as a general, was popularized by Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It helps you to quickly determine what you should work on and what you should ignore. So to create an Eisenhower matrix, you need to make a 2x2 square. On one axis, you write important and not important. On the other, urgent and not urgent. Develop good habits organising your to-do list based on each task's importance and urgency can help you identify time sinks that aren't worth it. Are you spending most of your day doing things that are urgent but not important? Look for ways to delegate, automate, or eliminate. Are you spending time on things that aren't important or urgent? Ignore those things. Are you making time to work on things that are important but not urgent? If you're like most people, or like me, you could be spending more time in this quadrant. So the Eisenhower matrix makes it easier to see what matters and what doesn't. Okay, number 5, use the 80-20 rule. So using the 80-20 rule to focus your time on the most impactful tasks. Another way to prioritize tasks comes from this principle. Discovered by Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto, the 80-20 rule, also called the Pareto's principle, states that in any pursuit, 80% of the results will come from 20% of your efforts. To maximize efficiency, highly productive people identify the most important 20% of their work. Then they look at ways to cut down the other 80% of their schedule to find more time for the things that are going to make the biggest impact. Number 6, break tasks into smaller pieces. Breaking down tasks into smaller next steps will help you to avoid procrastination. Why do you procrastinate? There are a variety of reasons that people procrastinate, but one of the most important is that the tasks on their to-do list just seem too daunting. If you have to-do list items that are large in scope and not very specific, tackling the tasks becomes challenging. You look at the item and think, I don't even know where to start. You can start by breaking large to-dos into small to-dos. Set small goals for each task. If I have a to-do list item labelled write a blog post on productivity, it's easy to, ironically, put it off because there are a few different places I could start. What if I broke that larger task into smaller chunks? Instead of writing about a blog about productivity, an example to my to-do list could be look up keywords related to productivity, and that could help me be much more efficient. Look at words to do with habits and productivity and so on. Read the top 10 Google results on productivity. Brainstorm other methods to become more productive. Organize the ideas I found or thought of into an outline. Jot down any specific thoughts on each tactic using bullet points. As you can see, what I'm doing is I'm breaking down these larger items to make them smaller. Sure, that makes my to-do list longer, but it also helps me get things done faster, and I don't have to think about where to start. Each item on my list is incredibly specific. All I have to do is tackle them in order. The result is what you're watching and listening to right now. Number 7, taking breaks. Taking breaks makes you a more productive person. A short break every 50 to 60 minutes is ideal. Nobody, not even highly productive people, can focus for 8 hours straight. It simply isn't possible. No matter how many efficient habits you build, you can't maintain distraction-free focus for that long. And that's why taking breaks is so important. And there's research to back it up. Research shows that people are more productive when they're taking breaks. Even breaks that are just a few minutes long can help you recharge and come up with new ideas. Be proactive about taking breaks. When taking breaks, it's more important to make sure they're structured and deliberate. It's easy to justify distractions as taking a break, but if you don't have the break time scheduled, it's possible that you're actually just getting distracted. Methods like the Pomodoro technique can help. The Pomodoro technique suggests 25-minute blocks of work with a 5-minute break. You work intensely for a specific amount of time, followed by intentionally not working for a short amount of time. Scheduling breaks can keep you fresh and productive throughout an entire day. Number 8, make fewer decisions about things that aren't important. Try to automate decisions or make less important decisions without too much thought. While he was president, Barack Obama once told Vanity Fair that he never makes a decision about what to wear. "You'll see I wear only grey or blue suits," Obama said. "I'm trying to pare down decisions. I don't want to make decisions about what I'm eating or wearing because I have too many other decisions to make." Some decisions are important, most aren't. If you want to be more productive, consider outsourcing or eliminating everyday decisions. Other highly productive people have made similar comments about their own efficient habits. Author and entrepreneur Ramit Sethi has what he calls Ramit's book buying rule. If you're thinking about buying a book, just buy it. Don't waste 5 seconds debating it. Even one idea makes it more than worth the price. If you're trying to decide between 2 books to read, Sethi would say, "I'll read them both." There's no point in wasting your decision on something that's really trivial. That's it for part 1. In part 2, I'll be covering 10 more tools with a bonus tip that most of us get wrong. I hope you found at least one item useful today. If you think this could help someone you know, then please share. And finally, come and join our community on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. If you'd like to know more about me, then you can go over to our website, rozzamindset.com. This has been Richard Rozza. Stay safe and keep active.